let's get started. Yes to Chap Our Champion. Yes to Acro Sin, of course. I know our guest knows how to play both of those games. So if you're new here and you don't know how those two games work, Acro Sin or Chap Our Champion, well, sucks to be you. Justin, can you intro our guest?
Sure thing. Guest today is a former collegiate athlete who holds a record at his alma mater of Niagara Falls Junior College for the longest volley in badminton and being the only student to knock out a tennis judge with his racket. He's one of the longest. JD, that caught me off guard. Sorry, totally took me off. He's one of the longest tenured people in the industry with one of the shortest resumes. He got to start in '93 with AV Pension Trust operations after a torn ACL sidelined his NFL career. He joined the Oppenheimer team in '99, where he started on the sales desk before moving to an external role in 2003, where he spent the remaining 16 years of his life there. While at the desk on the 34th floor, though, of 2 World Trade Center, he thankfully survived the horrific events of 9/11. Fast forward to 2019, when Oppenheimer was acquired by Invesco, he earned the title of National Sales Director for the DCIO market. So for over the course of almost 3 decades, he's had 4 jobs. Bill, I think most of us did that by 25. So cheers to you, my friend.
Yeah, nobody else will hire me, so yeah, but thank you.
Well, you climbed to the top now, so
Yeah.
Justin.
Let me
Justin.
finish, Chad. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Sales Director of Invesco, DCIO market, Bill Shores.
Bill Shores.
Good job,
Justin, you
welcome.
welcome, Justin.
Welcome to the show. Everybody out there, you know what to do. Rate Justin's intro on a 0 to
yeah.
10 scale. And Justin, I love this idea of you making up shit in people's intros. Continue on,
Damn it,
please.
JD. It's not supposed to be private, man.
Oh, well, when you go so far as
Like
badminton and
fashion.
hitting people with tennis balls, I think it's apparent, but I love it. I gave you a 10. Mark, rough. Mark gives him a 2.13.
It's all right.
Okay, let's go straight to headlines. And we've got Brandon back today, guys. So Brandon, can you play the headlines intro graphic for me?
oh geez, this again. Headlines.
You literally recorded that. That son of a bitch.
Oh, I thought it was-
Recorded? Wow.
That was a straight up recording. All right. Headlines. Let's go to Nirvana and a little story that came out. Apparently, Mark, everyone out there, do you remember the little naked baby
Dude,
on the
of course I
album
do.
cover?
Yeah, that was such a great album, and of course I remember
Well,
that.
that guy is Spencer Eldon is his name. I guess he's 30 years old now. So he was 4 months when that picture was taken. And he's claiming, hey, this was Nirvana using child pornography, man. Like, I want some money. Pay me, people. I think he's sued like 15 of them. Yes, Justin.
I'm out. It's complete bullshit because he celebrated the 25th anniversary of reenacting that photo.
I was going to ask
Did
you
he
guys
really?
some of that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you some of that, but yes, thanks, Justin. He has definitely cashed in on that quote unquote fame over the years. I think Justin brings up the most valid point. It seems that this guy over the years has cashed in on this fame. I believe he even has a Nirvana tattoo on his chest or something. And so, yeah, it seems to me without knowing anything about it that he's run out of some money and trying to figure out how he could.
I'm surprised it took him this long because the kids that sang Another Brick in the Wall got money, a few years ago from Pink Floyd. So I thought he would have sued right after that.
The kids that
Impressive.
is this a joke that's going over my head?
No,
Another Brick in the Wall was just a photo of like a brick wall, wasn't it, with a spray
no,
paint?
but
on
in
it?
the song, the kids that
Oh.
are singing. they didn't
Oh,
get
no way.
royalties.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they wound up getting royalties because they
That
sued
makes
and won.
sense.
Mark, trivia question. How much do you think Kurt Cobain's sweater that's in that picture went for at a recent auction?
$2.2 million.
I don't know. Someone look it up. I have no idea. Okay, let's move on to other 401k related headlines. John Sullivan has a recent podcast
Who?
out. The most fantastically fantastic podcaster in the 401k space, behind others like Rick Unser and Josh Idso and whatever, did a interview with Teresa Ghilarducci. I hate last names. Shores, Ghilarducci. Like, can't people just have normal fucking last names? But it was really interesting. And if you haven't checked it out, I really think you should. It's about 16 minutes. And apparently, I actually wasn't aware of this woman till now. And let me be clear, as we kind of attack, or at least I attack some of her points tonight, she's very smart. She's dedicated her career to these concepts. She's a self-admitted, scholar. She's not in the industry, so to speak. She just thinks about it a lot and does think and works with very smart people. And by the way, is a much bigger deal than all 5 of us combined. So total respect to her, but she is the anti 401k person in a way. Chad, I know, listened to the podcast and he immediately chimed in on a Retireaholics, a group chat saying, let's get this woman on the show. Cause his blood pressure was so high, I'm assuming. And, Mark and I were kind of like, no, she'll kick the crap out of us if we bring her on the show. But what I'd like to do today is something a little different. I'd like to grab 3 different audio clips from the podcast. I'll have Brandon play them for you one at a time. And then we'll discuss as a little fun little family discussion around the campfire. Okay. To kick it off, John Sullivan asks her, you once called the 401k an immature, underdeveloped child. Do you still feel that way? And this is what she said.
Absolutely, and I think that it will never grow up. So it is a child that will never be mature. The system can never meet the nation's needs for retirement security. It works well to create what I've been calling the tale of 2 retirements. It is a system for the past 40 years that have let the privileged create a good retirement.
Nice one, Crystal. Nice one. That's solid.
It's 2 points for Crystal already.
Great, Crystal.
So good.
Wow. Pulling up neck and neck with GG. Oh, that's a drink. I'll drink for that. Where's my vodka? Okay, Bill, I'm going to go straight to you since you are the valued guest here. First, what do you think she means by immature as an adjective to describe 401k? And then second, do you agree with her?
Yeah, I mean, I take her use of the word immature, as that we still have more work to do. That's being diplomatic about it. If I go to the other side, it sounds like she's being condescending and, combative with the industry. But I would prefer, to think that she's just saying we still have work to do. What's interesting to me, is that she says it will never meet the needs of the nation's needs for retirement security, but she gives no definition of what the needs are or how to achieve them. So there's a lot left open by that. She taking shots at us as an industry that we still have work to do, but doesn't provide any definitive goals that she has in mind, and how to achieve them.
When I listened to her, if I could try to define her goals, and maybe these are too simple, but I feel like she felt like the coverage gap was one. I feel like she feels like
She did.
because the 401k has only gotten about 50% of people out there that it's failed and therefore it's underdeveloped and or immature. And then I want to go to you, Chad, here. She also mentioned that what did she say that not the rich people, what was the word she used? The privileged.
Yeah.
The privileged have made this thing work again to this coverage gap. So my question to you is, how do you feel about those 2 points? This lack of, a third one is she wants decumulation, right? Which is a fair statement.
Yeah, I was just answering that soundbite. I could expand on the rest of the.
I'm sure you can. We're gonna spend some more time on this. That's what I sound like when I have beer in my mouth and I haven't swallowed yet.
And that's kind of, Bill, to your point there, I was kind of wondering how deep I should go with this answer, because she does talk about some of this. She talks about how she felt the pension system was a better version of what we're trying to do now. and recreating that with heavy decumulation in the end would be a big step for our industry. She mentioned in terms of the 401k being a child, she was heavy on coverage. That was the primary point that she tried to make there.
Yeah.
And me, JD, trying to read through the lines, what I think if you sat her down and forced her to give you an answer of what she would create if she had that magic pencil, I think she would come back and tell you it is, what is it, Australia that has it? It's a
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk
business-
about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have her describe her solution. So that's a good segue, Chad. I like that. I want to ask Mark first before we go to that segue or the next clip from her. This tale of two retirements that she talks about, you know, the privileged being able to use 401k as their advantage, but not the, you hate it when I use this term, so I'll use it today, but not the rank and file, right? The employees get left behind. I mean, is that true in Mark's pessimistic viewpoint of the world? You work in the micro to small market. These are the people you work with. Do the 401k plans not work for them?
No, I disagree with that. I think that maybe the, as you like to call them, rank and file don't have, maybe they just don't do enough early enough because there weren't enough people like there seem to be now who are looking at this in a bigger picture perspective and trying to get more people going and more options out there. I would just say that it all boils down to a lot of things, and her points are it's somewhat valid to say, okay, maybe people who make more money can save more. That's great, but retirement is relative, right? If your retirement looks like A, mine might look like B. So it's just about, like we always say, getting people engaged, getting. So no, I don't think that the rank and file get left behind, but yeah, I think that if they don't have a carrot, if there's something not there going in on their behalf to get them incentivized to save, they may not, and they're gonna be in a bad position later in life when other people who didn't have that who had more money could do more.
I think the question, Chad, we'll get to I think we can get to like design and the carrots for owners and towards the end here. Let's go to her clip because I think the next real build out here to this conversation is beyond this debate is, okay, well, what should the vehicle be, right? So if it's not 401k and you've got a better solution, then what is that solution? And she explains, quickly her concept here, Brandon. We can play this second clip.
So what's my proposal with the latest version of this is a thrift savings plan for most people. The thrift savings plan for your listeners who don't know, but they probably do, is the sort of the 401k plan for federal workers. So federal workers have an advance funded defined contribution like plan where they have a very limited choice of mostly indexed options, actually all index options, and they are automatically put into it, and the employer, the federal government, automatically contributes. So we have very little opt-out, even among low-income workers in the thrift savings plan. It's well managed with a heavy hand from the administrators so that the choices, you really can't go wrong with the kind of choices you have and the way it's structured. Older people invest in something called the guaranteed fund, the G fund, which is appropriate for their age and risk profile. And younger people invest in more aggressive options. That's what we all want. And then they smoothly fulfill their work obligations, retire, and there's an easy deaccumulation option.
Chad, how do you feel about government run plans? I mean, you like heavy handed things, right?
Yes, JD, I do. I just wrote in the chat bar, I did not hear until she mentioned decumulation anything that she stated other than the name of the plan type being different than what the 401k plans are offering nowadays.
Okay, I left out one part there that in that clip. In her defense, she does believe that the government should take the employer match on. So the government would give a match to the employees. She used the 1 to 3%. In her own words, or whatever Congress approves, but that was kind of the bandwidth she gave, 1 to 3%.
In my mind too, when I hear much about the thrift savings plan world and the way in which she describes it throughout that podcast, it continues to lead me back to Social Security. We're going to essentially have no opt-out rate. People are going to be forced in. Someone's going to be making a contribution on your behalf as well, which our employers do. And there's going to be money there for you. In this case, she's saying it's invested in index-based funds, which is what the vast majority, I think, 401ks are doing now. But I hear very little difference in her statements there than to what we are all trying to accomplish now. Trying to bridge the coverage gap, keep costs low, offer proper investments for people, whether you're younger or need a G fund. I don't think that's an acronym. A G fund, as she described, which are obviously flooded in our industry at this point. And are
I don't
revenue
know, Mark.
generators.
Mark, you could ring him up. I'd be fine with
He
that.
called it himself. That's an
I
illegal.
said
It's
it's
guaranteed. Guaranteed
Yeah.
fun was what she said. Guaranteed.
That is an
fun.
abbreviation, not an acronym. Mark, you're
Drink
getting
up.
terrible with
Drink
these
up.
rules.
Drink up.
The sin there, Chad,
Bill.
is the fact that you self-policed something that's not your decision.
Bill, when I hear her describe her solution, it takes me back to the days of black and white TV and like makes me think of like government brutalism architecture. It's so simple. Like she wants to like, we're going to do this and you're going to put you in these 5 funds and she even used which she probably shouldn't use in the future now that she wants to get advice from a bearded drunk guy, but the heavy handed description's probably not a good one. It like scares me the other way.
Right. And
Here we are in a 401k world where I feel like we're constantly evolving. If I could use her analogy of maturity, like, geez, we're going from age 8 to 12 to 14 to 16 to 19. Like we're tacking on lots of new things, lots of new technologies, lots of new investment options. How do you feel about her solution? Does it seem cutting edge or does it seem going backwards?
it seems going backwards a little bit, JD. And listen, her ideas are noble and they're well intended, but I think she's letting her idea of what in her mind is perfect be the enemy of the good that we've established over the past 40 years. What we have is working and it's working well. It's not 100% perfect. It doesn't work for everybody, granted. And what I think is proposing is a way to find those forgotten participants or people, the forgotten eligible employees that aren't participating in their plans by auto-enrolling them into the government TSP plan. I didn't hear her mention if they would have the ability to
Hit 'em
opt
up.
out.
Hit him up, Mark.
Ah,
What is that? What is that? Just tax saving plan?
Thrift savings plan.
Thrift.
Oh, that's, I gotta do my
That's right.
penalty drink.
Oh, nicely done.
Remember, you
Yeah.
can always finish your thigh.
Jose?
you know?
Yep, but I don't remember her saying anything about opt out. And if those employees can opt out, that's not very different than what we have now.
Right. A good point.
So, and then as far as the investment options, she says that it will work out well, but there's a huge opportunity cost that will be impacting everybody in these plans by not being able to invest in more than 5 funds. Now, I know there's a bunch of people that think passive is the be all end all, but the object of the game isn't he or she who pays the least. The object of the game is he or she who retires with the most. And, you know, if you look at active and international and fixed income, especially, it's not even close compared to passive. So I would advise against.
You're such a bitch, Mark.
What did
Because
I do?
you do it in the chat bar. Yeah, fuck you.
Oh, okay. You know, I would want a mix of active and passive in any plan. And
I
I
think
think
that
you're
option
missing,
is
you're
crucial.
missing out on investment gains.
Good for you. I didn't even think about it through the lens of an investment person. Like to hear her talk about the limited investment menu. I just feel like when she looks at our industry, she thinks like we're so archaic in terms of investment options. Like we've got so many great options. I feel like we almost have like too many options. Like it's not like it was 20 years ago, but I'm sure she's aware of that.
I had kind of
Let's-
taken from that from her comments, and tell me if you guys think otherwise, but her main concern was obviously the people who can't afford to save, right? That are
Right.
making, living paycheck to paycheck. And we all know there's a big population of people like that. So I had kind of, likened what her complaints were towards that. And yes, she has problems with 401k for sure. But Chad, you also brought up Australia's, was it superannuation or annuation, whatever it's called? It was really
Annuation.
interesting. And I've actually proposed, plans for Australian companies. And when she was talking about the the company's having a greater, role to play here. I actually like that a lot. Companies over there, they're required to give 9% to every one of their employees, which is,
yeah.
Can help bridge that gap for sure. I do see some value there, but yeah, it's not
You guys
something
are-
we do here.
You guys are perfect. Like I was kind of hoping to play this last clip and then and discuss that because I think you're right, Justin. In terms of her answer right now, Bill brought it up, by the way. You said that she's worried about people who can't save enough. Well, her solution doesn't solve that because whether you have an employer match or a government match, it's still gonna be hard for those people to pony up their own money. So that's not
Right.
the issue at hand. But where I do like some of her concepts is your Australian reference. If we could like get the government to pony in money for regular 401k plans these days and or mandate employers to put in money. And then this will be an interesting conversation. Let's have it after her last soundbite, because now it's kind of like you're just moving cheese around a lot, right? I mean, you're moving cheese around. Like, are you going to get it through
Coming from
social?
somewhere.
It's and so, but it's worth it for us to keep our minds open to new solutions. Brandon, let's play the final clip and then we'll wrap this up with a little comment.
They all tell me that the defined benefit system was better. Maybe it wasn't great for brokers, or for advisors, but the defined benefit system where employees couldn't get out of it and they had an annuity paid at the end of their working life was actually better. And that turns out to be true in the data.
Bill,
I would
we're
also-
talking about her solution. We're talking about pension plans. We're talking about 401k. I mean, should we be going back to pension plans? Did we make a mistake when we headed to 401k?
Ask the employees of Studebaker. What happened to their pension plan? Going backwards is not
Or
the answer.
Blockbuster?
This concept of the good old days when everybody had a defined benefit plan is not factual. I think it's only around 18 or 19% of employees actually received in the private sector received a pension because their companies either were taken over, went bankrupt, or they changed jobs and lost all their benefits. And that's what led to ERISA.
Talk about
because of-
a coverage gap. Talk about a coverage
Yeah,
gap.
Exactly. Now they have nothing. ERISA. Damn.
Well,
Another
yep.
one.
No, I think he's got 3, huh? What's the defined benefit guarantee and benefit? What does it start with? Pension guarantee?
Pension. Yeah.
Benefit Guaranty Corporation.
I would be really curious, and I forget the term that she just used, but she said that the statistics or the numbers show it. I wrote down a note earlier. I would be really interested to see the percentage of income replacement for the privileged folks versus the percentage of income replacement for those that she would term not privileged. Because I feel like there is a coverage gap. I'm not denying that. But I feel like if you look at the way our current system is set up and the way the pension system's set up in the past, that today is no more beneficial for the privileged than the pension system was.
It's obviously much higher. There's in doing enrollment meetings for years. If you're making 30,000 a year, Social Security will replace close to 40% of your
Nice,
income.
David. Nice.
So-
Brandon, you got to be watching that chat bar. Find that Jag picture. Sorry,
Yeah.
Bill.
No, that's okay. Yeah, and if you're making 90,000, it only replaces about a quarter of your income. So, and that was Mark's point earlier. Everybody's retirement is different. And we've always been in a situation where the low income earners don't have a lucrative or luxurious retirement. It's not a birthright to have that. It's just something we all strive for. And to have the government step in and supply it, I think it's not the way to go.
I think
let's not be
Chad,
naive. Go
I
ahead,
think
JD.
I think you're going to like this. As I started to feel defensive about her comments and her thoughts, I started to look in the mirror, at the 401k industry and 401k plans and were these really designed for the privileged? And I started to think like, wait a second, like it's kind of neat the way we design some of this stuff. And don't get me wrong, like it could be improved, but to force, especially in the small micro market, to force, and that's what she's talking about when you talk about coverage gap, right? To force business owners to put in a safe harbor or to put in an extra contribution to bump up their own savings in the profit sharing is really kind of ingenious. Like you're putting this carrot in front of the privileged, to use her term, to force them to give money to their employees. Like it's not a bad idea. And so maybe we just need to see that to fruition or tweak it a little more. Because I'm all for getting more people into the plan at the lower level,
Yep.
but I'm not thinking that our current way can't make that happen.
Well, if we make the retirement savers credit refundable with, and the tax savings that can be had, there's incentive there. And then if you throw on, with the match, if that doesn't get people in, and then the state plans, I don't know how much more we can increase coverage, with what we've done. People can
Hacklers.
always opt out.
Hackler's got a great point, like cash balance plan aside, like, putting away 50, 60 grand isn't necessarily, it doesn't help the privilege. Like these things are kind of a little low for them, but, Chad, you're going to wrap this subject for us. I mean, current design, current incentives for owners, current design options that are available out there. I mean, is it such a bad world?
No, I don't think it's a bad world for the owners, and I don't think it's a bad world for the employees either in the way we have this system structured. It's designed to help people save. It is designed to force employers to give something to the employees. The amount that they have to give to the employees is dictated by what the privileged is trying to save themselves, the age and the income variance. What I do think we have an issue with is coverage. And someone had just mentioned up there that employees are 12 times more likely to participate in an employer sponsored plan than they are to save on the outside. Nobody's debating that. I love that California has implemented Cal Savers. That I completely agree with it. What I don't agree with is taking what we are all doing and trying to push it into another government offered system. We have Social Security already. People talk about how that's failing. We don't want to, and she talks about this in the conversation. I don't feel that us relinquishing the private side of this business to the government, to our government, is the right next step for this industry.
Right. I see the costs exploding over what she might be projecting, JD, because let's say she implements a plan where employers can say, okay, I'm going to put my employees in the TSP and the government's going to match 3%. Well, all the existing,
Wrong face.
I'll finish my thought. All the existing plans out there that are matching 4% might say, well, the heck with this. It's only a 1% difference. I'm
Good
shutting down my
point.
plan. My employees can get 3% from the government.
That is phenomenal advice. You got to be really careful when you start to try to do new things,
Yeah, you'll
how
have a
those
ripple
might
effect.
impact old things. And that's
Yeah.
a good point. Chad, this is time for the Chad yellow notepad moment. I'm an advisor out there. I want to walk away with an actionable takeaway. What can I do? What have I been taught by this topic, Chad?
Geez, by an advisor walk away. The first thing I wrote down was naked kids equal money. Don't know if that was a good takeaway from the beginning part of the conversation.
Chad, you
Dude,
want to get rid of
don't
that
wanna
note
say that
real
right
fast.
now.
Burn that note, throw it in the garbage.
Here would
That
be
is
here,
not
here would
okay.
be my takeaway from what we just heard is none of us should be complacent and believe that what we have right now is what should be here 20 years from now. We all need to be willing and open to listen to what other people have to say and to continue to evolve and better not only what we're doing for the employees, but what we're doing for this industry as a whole. There was a mention earlier that in the chat bar that this business is still seen in a negative light, that we're trying to climb out of that hole that we've been put in for a long time, even though there are many of us trying to do what is right.
All those privileged people.
All those privileged folks. So we need to continue to be open and say that what we're doing now may not be right for the future. And we need to continue to personalize this business and try to help people.
Love
That
it.
would be the takeaway.
That's a long note, Chad.
Yeah, that wasn't a note. That was a
Hey,
thought.
I'm new to-
You
I'm
need
new
to
to
come
this.
on, bullet
Fair
I'm new to
points,
this.
dude.
Okay, I'll be quicker
Fair
next time. I'll be quicker
Like
next time.
a good one might have been,
Look up.
don't pose naked when you're a 4-month-old baby. Okay,
Yeah.
let's spin the wheel of ice. Let's spin the wheel of ice.
God, it's like a tweet. So many characters, and you have to use hashtag.
A high integrity wheel.
Oh, he's been watching. Go put the integrity wheel.
Proves it.
Damn it, it's me.
It gets on a hot streak. JD is on the streak now.
Safe.
Oh,
It's been a while since a what do we call him?
froze.
We don't
Froze
talk about
maker?
it.
Froze
We don't talk
maker.
about it.
Okay, topic number one. I always like it when we need Brandon to talk more. I get excited when I see his face
Topic
pop up.
number one.
If we really want, hold on, if we really want
504.
frozes, Brandon should do 2 froze followed by 1
We
safe on
don't
the
really
wheel.
want froze.
Okay.
I don't need to go to bed at 8
Uh,
o'clock after these shows.
As I pound this beer, Bill, defined contribution investment only. What is it? And then to back it up, because I didn't know what it was early in my career, I was like, what the heck are you talking about when I use that acronym? And to back it up, how can advisors and TPAs best use their local defined contribution investment only? Oh, dang it, peeps. Yeah, okay. And how can they take advantage of them? I will go to vodka, then I'll pound this. Go. The floor is yours, Bill.
Well, don't take advantage of them in the sense of the word that there's a misconception out there that the defined contribution investment only consultants are there as a credit card. I've heard it on the show. I've heard it at conferences. That is being abusive
Evil.
and looking at this side of the industry as a resource to be exploited rather than a resource to form partnerships with. The way they.
But I love those steak dinners. I love those
Right?
steak dinners.
No, you don't. No, you
Well,
don't.
the steak dinners are there for true partners and people that have earned it on both sides. Throughout my career, I've recognized that advisors don't want to see me. They don't. No advisor goes to the office saying, gee, I hope a wholesaler knocks on my door today. That's the one thing holding me back is my inability to find a good fund. I hope somebody solves that for me. That's not what you should be doing if you're out in the field wholesaling. You have to find how you're going to become a partner with that advisor and make him or her want to take your call, want to take your meeting over and over again. I position myself as a product agnostic Employee Retirement Income Security Act consultant. I don't care where they do their business, whether it's Nationwide, Empower, Transamerica, ADP, whoever it might be, automatic data processing. Whoever it may be, my job was to help them find plans, win plans, and keep plans. Whether it be through 5,500 in-depth reviews and dives, competitive information, coaching sessions on how to present to boardrooms and demonstrate their value. So the industry as a whole is really looking to partner with advisors to be product agnostic consultants. And in return, we're asking for 1 or 2 fund slots in the menu. It's a very competitive space, but we're there for the advisor and our record-keeping partners.
JD, there was a comment just made, so we should, in case it wasn't clear, the defined contribution investment only, I would state that is an individual with an investment company that's job is to make sure they get positions inside retirement plans.
Right.
Fair? Okay. There's some folks
Positions
saying they have not heard
and
that
or
term
assets. Yeah.
Yeah, positions is obviously you want assets and you're looking for transfers, but I think positions is what most are pushing for. They want to be on that core menu. They want to be in that target date suite, so forth.
100%.
But
100%.
it has to be earned. It has to be earned.
And like Bill was answering, which is kind of classic, which Bill and I had talked about this before. It's kind of similar to us. Like Bill runs, what is it? 9 people across the country, these wholesalers in different regions, these suit and ties that are running out there doing this. And to reiterate what he said is I think he's teaching them, hey, your value is not to show up with a fund sheet and say, we've got the best large cap value fund, out there. Their value is kind of like yours, Chad and Justin and Mark, is to get in there and say, how can I help you succeed? How can I help you be stronger in a point of sale? How can I help you retain your clients through better presentations on how things are going? How can I keep you up to date on regs and stuff? So let me ask you, Bill, to kind of dive a little deeper. If I'm an advisor in some geographic area, how many defined contribution investment only people should I be partnering with? And do I just give them a call and shoot them an email? And, how does that work?
Yeah, if I were in the advisor space, I would look to partner with 3 or 4 at the most. You can't be a good partner to 10 people. So pick the 3 or 4 of the fund families that you prefer, that you respect, that you like the way they manage their assets, and contact their wholesalers. I almost went down the acronym. and see what they have to offer. And if they don't meet up to your standards, you'll put them on the side, go with another one.
Will the T row guy get, or T row person get mad at me if he or she sees me out with the Invesco person? Like, is that going to be a problem?
It should motivate them.
That's a sales director right there.
Yeah, it should motivate them.
Um,
Absolutely. I mean, you have to earn the partnership. It has to be mutually beneficial. That is the pure definition of a partnership. No advisor is going to walk out of a finals meeting and say, if I only had a good large cap value fund, I would have won. That has never been said. But hey, if I didn't know about the retirement savers credit, if I didn't know about health savings account and the benefits that they can provide and different strategies for, adult children that can no longer be claimed as a dependent, if I didn't know about, new comparability, this is where you can partner with a product agnostic consultant to guide you and say, hey, you don't have to move a plan to win a plan. You can keep it where it is. Go for growth or record. You can move it down the road.
But Bill,
all these coaching things about winning business.
but Bill, and then Chad, I'll let you kind of wrap this little segment. But Bill, what could really inspire them to do well in their
Big
job
dinner.
as an advisor is if, a really expensive bottle of wine and a round at a great golf course.
Gotten a
would-
beer and steak, maybe.
Yeah, well, listen, that's not a
I'm
partnership.
joking. Chad, did you want to wrap this one up?
Yeah, I was going to say from my perspective, Bill, when I tell advisors to search out a defined contribution investment only partner, I tell them two things they should be looking for. One, that you trust and believe in the fund methodology behind it, good investments. The second is you look for someone who's super knowledgeable, because I do believe you're an agnostic resource that has so many different tools to leverage from the different record keeping providers, from the different TPAs. And there's been some fantastic, damn. Yeah, I heard you, Mark. There's been some fantastic
didn't say
relationships
anything.
that I think have helped advisors grow their books quickly because they find the right person and say, help me figure this crazy business out.
Right. And that dynamic changes as you go up market. The elite advisors out there don't need the consulting as much because they're getting the support from the home office, because they've accumulated the knowledge for 20, 30 years to become successful. So the partnership takes a little bit of a different dynamic and becomes more of what's in here around competitive information and the tools and resources that our firms provide. So it shifts depending on the advisor that you're speaking to.
I guess we'll call that that was the Chadwick yellow notepad moment, and a good
No,
one.
you can't. That was not at all.
Okay, give us one, Chad, in like 8 words or less. Take away from that.
Dude, I just gave it to you. And it was in 20 seconds.
No, it
That's
wasn't.
the
Mark said
takeaway
no.
For advisors with leveraging a defined contribution investment only person.
They're good.
Bill,
Great.
so if we can stay on the topic just for a second longer, I'm just wondering. You obviously, like we said, getting a sliver of the fund lineup is where they want to be, but again, we live in a world too. I would call that in our world, like a startup plan. Like we want those small plans too. We want to get those off the ground, but a lot of guys are looking for takeovers, right? Big thing too would be, hey, maybe you have an underperforming fund that we offer over here, so we can get this and get that fund replaced by us and transferred over. I mean, that's what I'm just curious. Like, is that the money generator for these guys? Like, what are they hungry for? Because being in a lineup is one thing. What if they're one of 35 funds that nobody cares about? They don't want to be in the large. You have, 10% of assets going into that. Maybe that's high. I don't know, depending on plan. But what are they really looking for?
From the wholesaler point of view, doing this for 20 years, I didn't look at individual plans. The advisor is my client. The third-party administrator is my client. So if you came to me with a startup plan and wanted my assistance with it, I would gladly do it because I'm going to be there for the next piece of business that comes down the road. I partnered with 3 third-party administrators in my territory for 20 plus years and worked with them on advisor selection, coaching their advisors. Yes, to get funds in the menu. That's what pays, that's how I earn my paycheck. But it's a long-term game. You just don't do it for one plan at a time. You're building partnerships over the long run. So you do the little things that add up over time. And then you just become their go-to guy for anything. When they pick up the phone, they can call anybody. When I was at Oppenheimer and then later Invesco, they could have called MFS.
And Bill, drink
Anybody.
up. Mark, that's a
They-
fair answer from him
Right.
because I could make the same comments about you guys. Like, will Road Guy get paid more if next week he sells a $10 million takeover? You will, but you don't drive your everyday Monday through Friday focused on that. You go out, you support advisors, no matter if it's a startup or 200K. No, he doesn't. Of course not, guys.
Like,
there's
what,
ca-
I
there's
get a phone
capacity-
call. What is this? Not, no, hang up.
And
Come on.
there's capacity issues, Mark, so you have to be selective, but with the right advisors who you know are doing business with the right third-party administrator shops, who you know will be good partners, you can't be myopic and look out for the one trade. That's putting your own interests first. And if you're going to be successful at this, because everything we do is built on trust and relationships, you can't put yourself first. You have to put the advisor or the third-party administrator or your record-keeping partner first. The numbers take care of themselves if you do that.
Yeah. The scoreboard will take care of itself. I totally agree with that. Sometimes I just feel like only I can say that as a small business, local, small family-owned business. How dare you say those same things as this large Invesco company? But no, that's not true, JD. They can run their practice the same way you run yours. And those concepts you're talking about are true to the
Because
core.
it leads to
They work.
success.
Yeah,
It
it leads to
works. It
success. It
works.
works. It works. So I love it. I love it. Let's break it up with a little bit of fun. Then we'll head back to a subject. No fancy graphics here. I just want to play a little Nirvana trivia. It's kind of a Nirvana theme that's going on here. So I've got some Nirvana questions for each of you. I'll start with you, Chad, because I know what a hip alternative music guy
I
that
know it
you
all.
are.
I know it all. My
Chad,
hand's ready.
Nirvana trivia question to you. And audience, go ahead and chime in your answers as quick as you can. Chad, you know the drill. Don't look at the chat
I'm
bar
not looking.
for this. What is the name of the Nirvana song? This is an easy one, Chad. That has high school cheerleaders in its music video.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any easier,
Oh.
but I knew you'd get it wrong. So I thought I'd ask you.
About a girl.
Nice guess. I love it. I love it.
I know like 3 Nirvana songs. So
As
probably
Mr. Schmedium put in the chat bar, you got it correct. Smells Like Teen Spirit. Phenomenal, iconic video. Chad, as my partner in work, my brother in 401k, I command
phone a
you.
friend. Do not phone a friend
No.
on anything music related to me.
I command you to watch that video some point in the next 24 hours and soak it in. All right, Mark, we're going to you next. And if you just get this within like 1 year on either side, I'll call it a victory. Okay. 1 year on either side. What year did Nirvana release their first album?
Oh God. First album. Hold on. First album. I'm not
First
looking at the
album.
chat bar. First album, like non-major label.
No, I'm first album.
All right, because I'm gonna go 89.
You such a cheater. Yes,
No,
that's correct.
I'm not
Got it?
looking.
Okay. Congratulations, Mark.
That's right.
1989.
Oh,
1989.
honestly, my immediate guess was 91 for some reason. That just popped in my head. So
Why
Also-
Nirvana theme, by the way? Why is this their Nirvana theme tonight? Am I missing something?
Well, we talked about the baby's penis earlier, so I just
I know.
thought
I
we'd
just
stick
wasn't
with
sure if
that
like
theme.
Bill's really into Nirvana or
No, just
there's a
having
reason.
fun.
Okay.
Just having fun.
All right then.
Coincidentally, 1989, the same year I graduated Harbor High School in Santa Cruz, California. Justin, going to you. Oh shit, I didn't write the answer down, but I remember it.
What's the question? I'll Google it.
What is Nirvana's best-selling album? I remember. I know.
Never mind.
Yeah. What? Why? No. Answer the question. You can't never mind.
That's the goddamn
That's the
answer,
name of the
dude.
Just being funny. A little mini Who's on First version. That's all. Congratulations,
That's
Justin.
awesome.
Great
Right
job.
there.
Great job. Bill, I'm going to take it easy on you since you're a defined contribution investment only guy from New York. I'm going to go true or false for you. Okay. Not that those types of people would be any less intelligent than other people. I just felt like you wouldn't know about grungy like music where people died of anyways.
Stereotype
football.
somebody, JD.
Thanks. Where's
Play
Bill's
football.
question? True or false? There were at least 5 different drummers in the band before David Grohl.
False.
No, the answer is true. It's true.
Yeah,
You
I got
hackler said
1989
false.
and I got
Yeah.
Teen Spirit.
No
So
way.
You know, it was a trip as I looked online too. And it's like, there's some like, don't quote me on this, but like they had like 17 different band members over the course of like their different career. Yeah. And you kind of, you think of the ones, but so anyways, check that out if I'm wrong. There was one time as a fun fact, I was at a conference, a 401k conference, and I went up to Jeannie Fisher. I really didn't know her that well. And you guys were with me, or at least one or two of you were. And I said, hey, answer this trivia question. We'll give you Retireaholic swag. At the time, no one really knew who we were, and she didn't really give a shit about the swag. And I asked her about the height of the needle in Vegas or something. And she answered, and I said, no, you're wrong. And she was pissed at me. And she's like, no, I'm right. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. And literally for 2 days, she was telling me, no, she's right. And, but she was wrong. She got the question wrong. So anyways.
Thanks for sharing that, JD.
How does that have anything to do with what?
I don't know. It just came to my mind. And sometimes I like to wing things. Bill, I've been in some fiduciary review meetings, and I know you have too. And I know that you actually sit in on some non-related to your job, just as an individual helping out.
Sure.
But I've been in some big ones, and my advisor uses, say, a retirement plan advisory group methodology, or we never solved this one, a 360, 2 letters before 360. Is that an acronym or
yeah,
not?
it's not an acronym. We decided that on an earlier show.
Methodology. Thank you. And so let's imagine just a fund is ranked from 0 to 10, just to keep it simple.
Yep.
And I've sat in these meetings, and the plan sponsor, the decision makers, the chief financial officer, apparently I'm still sober. This is good.
You're doing
Says, hey, look, I get all this stuff, but here's a fund that's a 7. Why don't we replace it with a 10? I don't understand. Like I care about my employees. I'm trying to act in their best interest. I want all 10s on this bitch. That wasn't what they said exactly, but you get my drift. How does the advisor respond, Bill? Like,
this could be a lengthy response, but I'll try to contain it. The 10s, the 7s, the 2s, those are all representative of what's gone on in the past. The job of the advisor is to have the best fund lineup for the participants going forward. And when we do investment reviews, the quantitative side is a measure of what's gone on in the past. But the role of the advisor is to add the qualitative side. Chad did a really good job of this a few weeks ago when Carrie Ohm was on, about talking about advisors becoming more reliant on the home office and are at risk of reducing their intellectual capital and adding value to their clients. This is where the advisor really needs to step up and add value. Because you're right, the initial reaction of the general population is, why don't we have all 10s? What are we doing with this 7? So when we look at the fund choices in the core menu, the first step is to define what purpose that asset class serves. So let's look at an example, large cap value. Why do we have large value in a plan? Well, most people would say that's our conservative equity play. But over the past 12 years, growth has been in favor 10 of the past 12 years. So what's happened is a lot of large cap value funds have drifted into the blend space. And the ones that stayed true to value are now scoring 7 instead of 10 because they didn't chase performance. They didn't take on the additional risk.
style drift.
Yeah, we style drift, taking on more risk. You see it in foreign large growth, where your foreign large growth fund will have a large exposure to emerging markets. Well, the plan probably already has an emerging markets fund. So if you have a 7, the advisor has to explain why it's a 7 and why it makes sense. The robos out there, the automated 321s that are acting as co-fiduciary for thousands of plans, will provide the scores, but they don't provide the why. That's the value of an advisor, is telling that committee the why the 7 makes sense going forward. because the 10 may have taken on too risk. The 10 may have drifted from its objective a little bit. The 10 might be doing something different than what its intended purpose is for that asset class. And that's why you need an advisor to be able to articulate the goals and objectives of each asset class. And that's why the investment policy statement, and I see a lot of advisors do this, upscale, top of the market advisors doing this, where their decision-making is made by the scores. Well, you don't need an advisor if that's the case. I can get a high school kid to say, look at this report, which ones pass or fail? Oh, those are red. They're
These
bad.
go to 11.
So
Chad, you got a different, let me interrupt our guest. You got a different take on this?
No, not necessarily different. I was going to say it would be interesting to look and see how many sevens outperformed tens moving forward over the next 2-year period, for example,
well,
or how many fives outperformed the tens.
you can do that. You can do that by looking at what happens to 5-star funds on Morningstar.
Yeah, same kind of thing. I kind of have a slightly different take. Go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
The only other thing I was going to mention is a personal story with an advisor who I felt like made the most compelling argument, as you were doing there, Bill, to not just following the numbers. This advisor sat into a fairly large plan. And when they were asked that question of like, why do we need you if you're simply using a methodology? The advisor sat back and said, you need me for the intellectual capital that is supporting the methodology. So what do I do on an annual basis is I sit with all my money manager, my fund partners, and we discuss the investments that I think I'm planning to use in my portfolio for the next 12 months. And we talk about where they see this going. And he said, often I get to sit with the actual manager themselves of that mutual fund, and I get insights that I otherwise wouldn't be getting. That is why you want me on this plan. Yes, am I using the metrics to help keep us on track to follow an investment policy statement? Indeed, I am. But I'm also spending a significant amount of time educating myself on where they are intending to go with this fund moving forward. And I felt like that was the best answer I heard in 10 plus years.
I like the two messages here, and part of that, Chad, is probably your notepad takeaway here, but I like the active advisor that plays a role in it, and you're not just using that methodology. I think that's cool. But when I was confronted with this, and it's happened a few times in my career, my answer was simpler. And it was kind of like, look, you have an investment policy statement, and you have to follow that investment policy statement. I mean, that's a big deal. And so your investment policy statement references a certain methodology, right? And so whether it's a 10 or a 5-star, or Sherry mentioned that, 360, I can say it, FI 360 kind of does it a different way.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The point is that your investment policy statement says, hey, look, when a fund drops below a certain level, we'll look at it for review. And if it drops below that for a certain period of time, then yeah, we'll consider removing it. But the reality is that those rankings, whether it's a 5-star, a color, or a 0 through 10, it could measure expense ratio. It could measure management tenure. It can measure all kinds of things that aren't necessarily backward looking or performance looking. Like performance is a certain part of it, obviously qualitative, quantitative. And so my point is, like, to your point, Chad, too, is that just because you're a 7 doesn't mean you're going to underperform a 10. And so to that plan sponsor, I say a 7's almost as good as a 10. It's met the requirements of your investment policy statement. And that's your job. What you do not want to do, what you do not want to do is create a habit of moving funds that have not fallen below your investment policy statement requirements just because you're chasing 10s or 9s or whatever. That's a bad habit to start.
Right. And what every advisor should do is, when you're recommending removing a fund, also give the plan committee a reason to keep the fund. It shouldn't be all, we have to remove this fund because of the next 3 things. Also give them a reason to consider retaining the fund. And the key word, JD, you used with the investment policy statement is consider replacing, not we will replace. And so many advisors out there use the investment policy statement as the decision maker. It's supposed to guide the decision, not make the decision. Because
shouldn't paint you in a corner either with a right
exactly.
language, right?
It should be general. Because if what you're doing can be replaced by an app, you're not long for the business, because everything's becoming automated. So you have to bring the qualitative stuff to the table that they can't get from a robo, that they can't get from an app. Otherwise, they're going to go that way.
Interesting thought that popped into my mind, JD, regarding the 10s versus the 7s. And I'm gonna make a sports analogy because you guys know how my mind works. If you came to me and said baseball, Chad, you have to pick a hitter that is going to perform the best.
The team, go sports.
Thanks, Mark. You have to pick a hitter that's going to perform the best over the next month. If I see a hitter has been hot for the last month and they've hit 500, I'm not going to pick them to be that person for the next month. Because statistically, it has shown us they're not going to hit 500
you're right.
on the freaking season.
Talking about when someone's due or they're not due. I got you. Yeah.
So if I
Just
find a
like
hitter
when
that's
the
hit
roulette table
320,
shows all black for the last 9 rolls, you pick red, and then you promptly lose all your money.
don't bring back bad memories for JD, Mark.
I think Sherry's saying maybe hot doesn't exist in the financial markets, which maybe I'm going deep into her comment. But this topic's yellow pad notes has been brought to you by Bill, who will step in for Chad because he said, hey, if you're gonna remove a fund, also give them a reason to keep it. Well said, Bill. That was solid stuff. Let's go to Chat Bar Champion. And Chad, since you look eager, you can vote first.
Most points on my board right now is Crystal.
Crystal. Okay. I'm going to go with Daniela, but she's left. I know. Oh, can't, right? She's gone. All right. I'll punt to Justin.
I was going Crystal too. Sorry.
Okay. Then I'm going to go GG and I'll drink for that. I'll go Greg Greenfield. Mark?
Yeah, I'm Greg all day today.
Greg all day. And Bill as our honored and special guest.
He had me at hello with stories with Shories.
Nice.
So I'll go with Greg.
Lovely. What was the Tom Cruise movie? You had me at hello. What was that called? Show me the money.
Yeah.
Jerry Maguire.
All right, Brandon.
Yeah.
Jerry Maguire. There we go.
Those are our.
You had me at hello.
God, he's quick to the
gosh,
trigger.
he's fast.
That is quick to the
Impressive.
trigger. Put those in while Brandon puts those in the
Sorry, I was looking for that. Who's on the chat?
Crystal, Greg, Crystal, and Greg. I
That's
think,
it.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Like Brett, yeah,
It's a man on woman head-to-head match.
Dun, 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 dun.
Vote it up, people. Vote it up.
Can't
Dang
vote.
it, can't
Thanks,
vote.
Brandon.
Jeez.
Have I ever told you on this show that sometimes I have to pee?
I have to be real bad right now, JD.
And the winner is the greatest of all time, Greg Greenfield.
Wow, look at how close that was. Jeez.
Solid.
One vote.
All right. Bill, thank you so much
Oh, thank you.
for joining us and giving us your thoughts. Everyone out there that tuned in, you know we love you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. You know what they say, Mark? I didn't mean to steal your thing there. Actually, that came off quick to the trigger. Brandon's as sober as I am right now. I'm about to get drunk in the after show. What they say is the after show is usually the best shit. So if you've stuck around, and hopefully Bill will stick around with us, and we'll just figure out what we're going to talk about. Brandon, play us off some music. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then we'll kick off the after show.
What is this? Nirvana guy?